There's this excellent trope where a character claims greatness, but we don't get to see it for a while. And it's in Cormac McCarthy's All the Pretty Horses, but it's also in the movie Willow. And so we need to start at the crossroads. That's right. This sad specimen of a man with poor dental hygiene calls himself...
My name is Madmartigan.
Now, if you've ever read Harry Potter or Romeo and Juliet, you'll recognize this technique where name is personality descriptor, because Benvolio is benevolent, and Mercutio is mercurial, Hagrid is hairy and ragged, and Dreyfus Malfoy is... I don't know, I never read past the train station scene. So let's see. Willow, off good, lawful good. Queen Bavmorda is lawful evil, but nobody, chaotic neutrals, like Madmartigan. Now, Sorsha is going to go like this, and Madmartigan will go boop, but we don't know that yet. Anyway, he's still locked in his cage when he proclaims,
I am the greatest swordsman that ever lived.
Big words. We, the viewers, and Willow have little reason to believe him. A dirty criminal whose impending terminal dehydration is fueling his unpredictability. He's already been threatening, sweet, mock sad, indignant, pleading, and relaxed.
Morning, boys.
When he claims he'll take care of the baby if they free him, even the baby is skeptical. Plus, our hero, Willow, has already made claims to greatness that we know are not true.
I am a powerful sorcerer.
So is Madmartigan really the best swordsman who ever lived? It's a mystery. It's like a little curiosity seed that has been planted in our fertile minds, and of course, a good story will let that seed germinate. So when Madmartigan is freed, there is no sword on the ground for him to pick up. We must build anticipation. Madmartigan's claim to greatness happens at minute 29 of this movie. After that, 47 minutes of runtime pass in which the self-proclaimed world's greatest sword fighter does not touch steel. Many scenes pass in which having a sword would have been really helpful.
If only I had a sword.
But no, it's not until here in this tent 60% of the way through the movie that he finally gets a sword. I especially appreciate the Steph Curry style behind the back sword dribble. Willow says what we're all thinking.
You are great.
And yeah, there is no subtext to this line. It's a bit on the nose, and it wasn't in the original script. But given that this is a movie for children of all ages, I think this line is a perfect way to mark the answer to the mystery.
I am the greatest swordsman that ever lived.
You are great.
Of course, that reveal does leak some dramatic tension, but the movie smartly pairs it with the development of a different narrative question. Are these enemies gonna become lovers?
What are you staring at?
Your leg. I'd like to break it.
Is there a more iconic enemies to lovers line than that? It's so good. Anyways, that's a different trope. Let's switch now from Willow to All the Pretty Horses, Cormac McCarthy's 1992 breakout success. I'm going to go ahead and say that if you have not read this incredible book yet, you need to delete Instagram. And then when you finish the book, you can reinstall Instagram, but you might not want to. Anyways, the scene is West Texas in 1949. We meet 16-year-old John Grady Cole, who decides to run away from home after his grandfather dies and the family decides to sell the ranch. No, he doesn't run away from home exactly. He rides away from home because, see, he's got a horse, and the horse is named Redbow because red is just a great name for things in the West. He's also with his best friend, Rollins, who also has a horse. And the two of them go riding south, and they cross the river into Mexico, where they're joined up by a 13-year-old kid named Blevins. The three of them are riding across the beautiful Mexican landscape, and we don't have a real sense that one of them is so much better of a horse rider than the others. But one night, around the campfire, we get this. I'm going to go ahead and dramatize this, so buckle up. Hey Blevins, are you a cowboy? I like it. Everybody likes it. Well, I don't claim to be no top hand, but I can ride. Yeah? That man yonder can ride. What makes you say that? He just can, that's all. Suppose I was to tell you he's the best I ever saw. You doubt that? No, I don't doubt it. Depends on who you seen ride. I seen Booger Red ride. Yeah? Yeah? You think he can outride him? I know for a fact he can. Maybe he can, maybe he can't. You don't know shit from apple butter. Booger Red's been dead forever. Don't pay no attention to him. Well, he can't take my part in it without bragging on himself, can he? He's full of shit. I don't see how you can say somebody's just flat out the best. You can't. He's just ignorant, that's all. There's a lot of good riders. That's right. There's a lot of good riders. But there's just one that's the best. And he happens to be sitting right yonder. John Grady has been dubbed the best horse rider. Trope activated. Now, this is on page 58 of a 300-page novel. That's about a fifth of the way through the story. Madmartigan claimed to be the best swordsman about a quarter of the way through Willow. I don't think this is a coincidence. A quarter of the way through the story, the author has had time to establish the world and the characters and the stakes. If you introduce this trope too early, there is no weight to it. Introduce it too late, and it leaks dramatic potential. Now, you'll already notice a key difference between the deployment of this trope in Willow and in All the Pretty Horses. Madmartigan is bragging about himself, whereas in All the Pretty Horses, it's Rollins who claims his friend John Grady is the best, while John Grady denies it. So these are clearly two very different characters. But crucially, in both cases, we don't know if we can trust the information. It's coming from a source that's prone to exaggeration. And we don't really know whether to read John Grady's denial as real or just humility. Well, he can't take my part in it without bragging on himself, can he? The effect on me when I was reading All the Pretty Horses was that I immediately thought back to all of the horse stuff that John Grady had done to see if I could see evidence of his virtuosity. There's the earlier moment in which John Grady's relationship with horses is described as special. And this is one of the very few moments in the story when the narrator leaves the perspective of John Grady and travels elsewhere, in this case, into the mind of his father. The two of them are riding horses together when we get this. The boy who rode on slightly before him sat a horse not only as if he'd been born to it, which he was, but as if, were he begot by malice or mischance into some queer land where horses never were, he would have found them anyway. It's so good. We're still in the telling, not showing portion of the proceedings, but what's being told here goes beyond the mythic best horseman appellation to something more spiritual. To his dad, John Grady is natural in the saddle, sure, but not only that, his connection to horses is metaphysical, mystical. John Grady could find a horse in some queer land where horses never were. The ambiguity of this is wonderful. As readers, we don't know what it means, but we trust that eventually the book will tell us. So we have, by the quarter mark of this book, two instances where we have been told that John Grady is special with horses, but we haven't yet seen it. And so now we're reading with rapt attention any interaction between John Grady and horses, searching for this specialness. And this is another big difference between the deployment of this trope in Willow with Madmartigan, who, when he makes his boast, doesn't have a sword, and in All the Pretty Horses, where when John Grady is described as being the best, he's got a horse at the time. But Cormac McCarthy is in total control, and he will not tip his hand too early. So on page 62, the teenage trio meet some Mexican zacateros on horseback, headed into the mountains to gather chino grass. John Grady smoked and watched them. For all their shabbiness, they were well mounted, and he watched those black eyes to see could he tell what they thought, but he could tell nothing. They spoke of the country and of the weather in the country, and they said it was yet cold in the mountains. Now, I had to reread that to understand it, because one of McCarthy's big tricks is pronoun ambiguity. So on first read, I thought all the theys meant the Mexican riders, but no. This them and this there and this they and this they and this they all refer to the humans, but the men don't have black eyes. So he watched those black eyes to see could he tell what they thought, but he could tell nothing. Is John Grady trying to read the thoughts of the horses through their eyes? Which, sure, let's play a little game. What's this horse thinking? What about this one? Not so easy, is it? John Grady doesn't succeed either, but the fact that he even attempts it tells us a lot. 7 pages later, we get another little tease of John's horse skills. Blevins' hat falls to the ground as he rides away from a storm that he's scared of. Blevins' hat lay in the road, and Rollins tried to ride his horse over it, but the horse stepped around it. John Grady slid one boot out of his stirrup and leaned down and picked up the hat without dismounting. Now, that's a simple sentence there, which might make you think, okay, he leaned over and he picked up the hat. But do you remember how tall horses are? They're tall. This move is hard to do on a pony. See her, she's on a pony, and that looks great. But John Grady is doing that from a horse. Here's a woman doing it from a horse, full Cirque du Soleil style. Anyway, I can't exactly picture how John Grady does it, but I love that he's able to pick up the hat. Meanwhile, Rollins is unable to get his horse to even step on it. And all this time we're like, is this what it means to be the best? But the real answer comes on page 99 when Rollins and John Grady get jobs at the hacienda. They work 2 days in the holding pens, branding and earmarking and castrating and dehorning and inoculating. On the 3rd day, the vaqueros brought a small herd of wild 3-year-old colts down from the mesa. Now, John Grady and Rollins have very different reactions to seeing these wild horses. That's as spooky a bunch of horses as I ever saw. They don't know what we are. Don't know what we are? I don't think so. I don't think they've ever seen a man afoot. You see anything there you'd have? There's horses there. Where at? Look at that dark bay right yonder. I'm looking. Look again. Which, incidentally, is the exact phrase the painter Beaufort Delaney said to James Baldwin when Baldwin was looking at a puddle but failing to see the city's reflection. It's also what Morpheus says to Neo when the lady in the red dress walks by.
Look again.
In all 3 of these instances, we have 2 characters looking at the same object, seeing 2 different things. Neo sees a pretty lady, Morpheus sees a potential enemy. James Baldwin sees puddled water, Beaufort Delaney sees a reflected city. Rollins sees a skinny wild colt. John Grady sees a horse with potential. Wisdom is slowing down enough to see the world as it really is or could be. So then John Grady proposes that they break all 16 wild colts in just 4 days. And the rancher thinks he's full of it, but says, go for it. And now we've got a ticking clock. Only instead of Jack Bauer trying to defuse a bomb, we've got 2 American teenagers trying to break 16 wild horses. The duo embark on this impossible task with John Grady leading all the way. Now, in the Billy Bob Thornton directed film adaptation, John Grady looks a little overwhelmed and he just says, whoa, 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 a lot. Whoa, 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 whoa. And they basically just throw a saddle on a wild horse and hop on, and of course the horse bucks. But the book is different. First of all, they come out in the darkness of early morning, eating a cold tortilla and no coffee because it hasn't been made yet. It's not this midday crap. Right off, we learn that Rollins and John Grady have different techniques for horse breaking. Rollins says, you dead set on sacking these varmints out? Yep, John Grady says. And we soon learn what this means. John Grady wants to take a sack and rub it over the body of the hobbled horse to get it used to human touch. But wait, first they actually have to get one of these horses tied. To do that, John Grady gets a loop around the front leg of a horse and it falls hard. Before the colt could struggle up, John Grady had squatted on its neck and pulled its head up into one side and was holding the horse by the muzzle with the long, bony head pressed against his chest and the hot, sweet breath of it flooding up from the dark wells of its nostrils over his face and neck like news from another world. They did not smell like horses. They smelled like what they were, wild animals. He held the horse's face against his chest, and he could feel along his inner thighs the blood pumping through the arteries, and he could smell the fear, and he cupped his hands over the horse's eyes and stroked them, and he did not stop talking to the horse at all, speaking in a low, steady voice and telling it all that he intended to do, and cupping the animal's eyes and stroking the terror out. Damn. Now, I know that's hard to film, but Billy Bob Thornton was simply not up to the task. But actually, I did have a chance to sit down with Billy Bob for an interview. So John Grady Cole is a serious, monosyllabic 16-year-old boy. Why on earth did you cast a smirky, smiley 30-year-old Matt Damon to play him?
It's very, well, it's mashed potatoes with no gravy, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, not sure if I do know what you mean. Mashed potatoes, no gravy?
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I was just saying what you said.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Do you like movies?
I'm not sure what that means.
Anyway, how do we know that what John Grady and Rollins are doing is special? Well, Cormac McCarthy borrows a technique from one of my favorite children's books, Mike Mulligan and His Steam Shovel by Virginia Lee Burton. See, the steam shovel is digging at an incredible rate, and we see that because at first there's just a boy sitting there, and then more folks come to watch, and more, and more, and more. The same thing happens in All the Pretty Horses. It's dark when John Grady and Rollins stop. Someone had built a fire on the ground outside the Potrero, and there was something like 100 people gathered, and then the next night when they go in for supper. The vaqueros were at the table, and they got their plates and helped themselves at the stove and got their coffee and came to the table and swung a leg over and sat down. There was a clay dish of tortillas in the center of the table with a towel over it, and when John Grady pointed and asked that it be passed, there came hands from both sides of the tables to take up the dish and hand it down in this manner like a ceremonial bowl. And that is how we see how much the cowboys respect them. The vaqueros are good guys. They're going to pass the tortillas down no matter what. But we see their admiration and respect for these American teenagers in the fact that hands from both sides of the table pass down the dish. It's such a small, perfect detail that communicates so much. And in using it, McCarthy rewards us for reading attentively, for being like a horse with one ear forward and one ear back. There are some other ways that we see John Grady's extraordinary horsemanship over the course of the novel, but I don't want to spoil everything. Though I will mention that at one point he gets into bareback riding a thoroughbred stallion moments after the stallion has impregnated a mare. And I think that that's a nice reminder of one of the pleasures of reading books, because I doubt I will ever get a chance to do that in real life. What should we call this trope? The swordless swordsman, the rumored legend? No matter the name, it's no coincidence that we see this trope more in Westerns. See, back east we had universities and banks and newspapers and a whole social system for designating a person's accomplishments. Out west, in frontier times, we had rumors spread by campfire or across the table in a saloon. Those rumors, sufficiently concentrated, might congeal into something called legend. The East was credentialed. The West was mythic. And in 1949, when All the Pretty Horses was set, the West ain't really the West anymore. Private property and barbed wire fences have killed off the cowboys. For John Grady to live in a Western, there is only one direction to go: south. Don't worry, Redbow. It's hard riding, but John Grady's going to be talking to you the whole time. I'm Blake. This is Below the Fray. I just wanted to say, I put up my last video was about my appearance on Bookstore Blitz. And a lot of you went to the Bookstore Blitz video that Simon & Schuster had put up, and in the comments were like, hey, you got to publish this guy. And that really hit me. Like, you all are just strangers to me. I know you appreciate me putting out this content. You know, you're enjoying it. But like, I didn't ask you to do that. I don't know. I just want to let you know, like, it kind of got me.
I just want to thank you for listening to me and letting me be a part of your life today. Because you got a good life. You got a good life.